And joining me now to discuss this case is Scott Curtis, a former agent at the FBI. Scott, thank you so much for joining us. I first want to get your reaction to hearing that resident there say maybe the FBI didn't come in soon enough. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I think that's a valid point. In the situation here, I mean, you had an alleged kidnapping of a high-profile victim. I mean, kidnapping is a federal offense. A high-profile victim in this situation here, I think it would have been appropriate for the local law enforcement to bring in the FBI right from the beginning there, so they could utilize all the resources that the FBI could bring: personnel, resources, technical components, forensic analysis, and all that other stuff there that maybe would have been more efficient in doing that initial crime scene investigation there at the residence.
And despite significant police activity, as you're mentioning, in the last 24 hours, where law enforcement swarmed that nearby home and then also towed a car, the search right now, it does continue. What stones are still left unturned in this investigation that could bring this case to a close?
Well, from my vantage point here, there's three major avenues that investigators are working on right now. One is additional surveillance video footage from people in the neighborhood, from commercial establishments in that whole general area, to review to try to identify this individual, as we have seen in the surveillance Nest camera footage from Nancy Guthrie's home, see if that individual shows up on anybody else's video footage, or to see if there's any suspicious vehicles, for example, in that area that time of night, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning there, that would draw attention, where they should look further into seeing who belongs to those vehicles and what they were doing in those areas. The next avenue I think that they're doing right now is reverse engineering there, trying to identify cell phones that could have been in that area, not only on that evening of the abduction, but at any point during the last 30 days in a period between probably midnight and 3 a.m. where people may have been casing that location. So they're going to, go back to Google, for example, and see what cell phones maybe were using geolocation there, hitting off those cell towers at that time of night during that period of time there, and then working to try to identify who the users are of those cell phones. The third area that they're going to be also pursuing is, now that we've identified the type of backpack that individual was wearing that night of the abduction, and they know that backpack was sold through Walmart, they're going to go to Walmart now and try to get a purchase history of people that purchased that backpack, hoping that individual may have purchased that backpack within the last few months, for example. They're also identified the jacket that he has worn there, and will again seek a purchase history, hoping to narrow down who purchased that type of jacket. I wouldn't be surprised also if they come out and tell us what type of sneakers he was wearing, and do the same thing for that piece of clothing.
Okay, so a lot of legwork there. The Pima County Sheriff also, Scott, says there was DNA found at the scene that doesn't match anybody close to her, Nancy Guthrie, and that DNA is being tested. We've heard of genetic genealogy helping crack cases, helping to identify serial murderers. Walk us through that process, how long it takes to play out, and do private companies like 23andMe and Ancestry cooperate?
Well, they have, and there, as you mentioned, there's been notable cases. One in the New York City area here that I recall in the last year or so, where a serial rapist, from going back to his college days up in New England there, they used that cooperation there to match his DNA with DNA from those rape crime scenes back, I think, 15 or 20 years prior. So yeah, that is a possibility if, again, this individual or family members connected to that individual, who we don't know who it is right now, have utilized that system in the past.
And Scott, how does public pressure for this case, how does the pressure for answers impact the investigation? And at what point does this case go cold if there continues to be no sign of Nancy and no arrest?
Well, law enforcement needs to gauge how much they want to reveal to the public to get the public to further cooperate. Unfortunately, in this situation here, you have a sheriff, a local law enforcement, who is an elected official, where you have the FBI, who are, federal law enforcement officers there. So, in some ways, they're looking at this through a different type of lens there, but you would hope that they're working together. One thing that I want to point out that I've learned here over the last few hours is that there was a neighborhood watch app that individuals living in that area were using to report on suspicious activity there. And supposedly Nancy Guthrie had actually reported about theft and potential burglars in her neighborhood maybe about a year ago. So that's something that law enforcement should also be looking into. Has anybody in the neighborhood reported on suspicious activity there? What did police do if they received that information? And it could be a situation where maybe reports were filed and just never followed up over the last year or so, that they need to then go through their files and see what potential leads are there that would be relevant right now.
So many different avenues to hopefully find some answers. Scott Curtis, former FBI agent, thank you for sharing your expertise with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.